Hi guys and girls, I'm Obsidian and back from a rather spectacular few days at EGX 2016 over here in Birmingham, UK. Now there was a lot to see and a lot to do, and for me, the highlight of the show really was VR. VR was dotted all around, and although I didn't see any official booths from either Oculus or from the HTC Vive, they were there on plenty of the booths. A lot of games for all the VR headsets, so it made this very, very interesting. But for me, the standout headset this year really was the PlayStation VR, and there's a very specific reason for that, and that's because it exceeded all my expectations. I didn't expect anything too high quality from it in terms of its visual quality, but it really was a standout for me. I also spent a bunch of time looking at a lot of sci-fi related games, and we'll get into those in just a bit. But first, here is Battlezone, a remake of an old favourite of mine. I remember playing this back in the arcade days, the coin-op game with its very older style graphics. You may remember it. This is a new representation of it, and it's jolly good to say the least. This, at the moment, at least at the EGX, was an exclusive VR game, and I tried it out on PlayStation VR. And it was this that really did make my mind up that PlayStation VR has the potential to be something very special indeed. Now, the headset itself, you've probably seen images of it, is very different, at least in appearance, to both the Vive and the Oculus. But that's not to say it's any less effective. Now, out of all of them, I found this one to be the most comfortable. The weight is distributed round the top of your head with a strap on your forehead and another strap on the base of the back of your skull. The display is then free to slide back and forward and get as close or as far away from your face as you actually like, and you don't feel any pressure there at all, and it's extremely comfy even with glasses. Now, Battlezone itself really was a surprise. It runs flawlessly on the PlayStation, and this is just the basic PlayStation 4 model. I made sure to ask whether it was running on the PS4 Pro, and I was assured that it wasn't. So, yep, very, very smooth frame rates on the game itself, and the head tracking is absolutely perfect. Now, despite the rapid motions on this, I didn't get any motion sickness at all, and I can be prone to that sometimes on some games, but they seem to have nailed it with this. Now, from what I tried, the game is essentially just a shooter, quite fast paced, and in the traditional format for Battlezone, the turret for your tank is fixed in the forward position, meaning you have to reposition your tank in order to target. Or at least that was the deal on the tank that I got to try out. It did seem that there were multiple tanks available to select, at least in the final game. So it was this game that really did make my mind up about PlayStation VR, and I'm looking at getting a PlayStation headset soon after they release, although it will depend on just how many games are actually released for the final headset. There might not be too many until later next year, but we'll see how it goes. And if, like me, you had some doubts as to whether the PlayStation would effectively be able to handle VR, you needn't doubt anymore. It's more than capable. Battlezone was far from the only sci-fi themed game there. Moving on to space themed games, Starpoint Gemini Warlords was a very interesting looking game. This is a space sim of sorts, and it allows you to control not only just one ship, but also a fleet of ships. The developers have 90 ships planned for implementation in this game, and there are some rather interesting looking environments. Just look at this. And if you've heard of the Starpoint Gemini franchise before, it will probably be because of Starpoint Gemini 2. I'll be back later on to have a closer look at this particular game in a future video. Another game which really did catch my attention was Soul Trader. Another space-based game, this one with a very deep and fairly complex character system. As you make your way around the solar system, you'll come into contact with the various other NPCs. Now that could be through combat, it could be through trading, it could in fact be through a number of different experiences. But what happens here is they all remember you, they all have a relationship with you, and they will all then go away and discuss that with other characters. And the way that your reputation builds with these people will dramatically affect your overall relationship with them. So on this, the whole society is procedurally generated, which means it can be fairly complex and fairly deep with thousands of characters. There's also trading involved, obviously in the title being called Soul Trader, and of course there's some missions as well. So it's an indie game of course, but it seems to be fairly in depth and something I will be coming back and having a closer look at in another video, so do keep an eye out for that. If you're interested in any of these videos or any of these games I've actually shown already, do check out the link in the video description where you can find out more. EGX then was very nice in 2016, and although there were quite a few people actually missing, there was no Xbox there for example, and I didn't see EA or Ubisoft making a big presentation as they did in the previous year, but nonetheless the overall show was very well worthwhile going to. And for those of you involved in the Elite Dangerous and the Elite community, I also bumped into a few people from there. Ben from Live Radio was there, and I also bumped into Hugh Mann, who was Twitch live streaming directly from the show floor. And of course, Barry from Special Effect. Nice to bump into everyone then, and some rather interesting games to look forward to. So that's it for this Highlights of EGX video. As always, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you guys and girls next time.